So I'm calling this video Why Insomnia May Have Made Me the Henry Ford of Health, Fitness, and High Performance. I'm not Henry Ford yet. Not at that level yet, but I believe it is potentially inevitable. I think it actually is inevitable. And that's an interesting thought. Why do I think that I will become the Henry Ford, someone as influential as Henry Ford and as revolutionary as Henry Ford in the area of health, fitness, and high performance? Well, if you're new to my channel, I have had insomnia for my whole life. Oh, insomnia. That's not so bad. So you have trouble sleeping. No, 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 no. This is more like fatal insomnia. This is like total insomnia. This is multiple day periods, zero sleep. Multiple week periods, zero sleep. More weeks than I could possibly count I've had zero sleep. I've had 2 separate months in my entire life where I did not get a wink of sleep. I have had multiple week stretches without a wink of sleep, more of those than I could possibly count. This has been going on since I was 16, but really I've had sleep problems and just insomnia as long as I can remember. Going back to when I was 7, I would just stay up all night reading. Just figured I was a night owl. When I was 14, it had gotten worse. There were multiple day stretches where I wouldn't sleep, but I figured I was an eccentric person, probably just eccentric. Well, I'm getting into soccer, I'm getting into sports. I guess I should probably fix my sleep problems, because it's hurting my grades, it's hurting everything in my life. Everyone knows sleep's the most important thing for health, so better get those sleep problems under control. Didn't work at all. And that's when I realized I had a problem. When I was 16 and I was having multiple week stretches at a time without sleep, I realized this is going to be a life-defining problem. And I'm now 26 years old. I've had 3 separate incidences in my life of total insomnia. I put air quotes because I don't know. Where I just stop sleeping entirely and I have to figure out how to regain my sleep. Literally, I stopped sleeping entirely. The first time I did it by fasting and protein fasting, where I would only eat carbohydrates for multiple day stretches, fast, then only eat carbohydrates again. And that sort of reset my gut enough to sleep, and I believe that had a mitochondrial effect that this is mitochondrially rooted. I believe this is rooted in some issue with mitochondria in my brain. So that worked the first time. And then the second time, I was able to come back with carnivore after trying to do that again, but not succeeding. Third time, I was able to come back with carnivore and prolonged fasting. Periods of 5-day fasts and only eating beef, salt, and water. It's technically lion diet. Still didn't really fix the problem entirely, so now I take paracetam and I stopped taking Adderall, which I started taking when I was 21, and I just stopped taking it because I believe it is inhibiting me from regaining my sleep fully. So what does all this mean, and why do I think this is the reason that I am going to be the Henry Ford of health, fitness, and high performance? Well, like I said earlier in the video, we all know that sleep is the most important thing for health. You need to sleep or you cannot be healthy. It is the most critical thing. If you ask any doctor, should I eat a terrible diet and get great sleep, or eat a perfect diet and not ever sleep at all, no matter what? They would tell you to eat the poor diet and sleep. So what's interesting about me is I'm this very specific case study because I've written down pretty much everything I've done. I mean, it's not like scientifically compiled, all of it. I mean, a lot of it is. There's a lot of stuff I've been writing down. I've been at this for over a decade, so there's a lot of stuff I've written down about this. But I basically documented what happens when sleep is removed from an otherwise healthy human being at a young age. It's quite interesting. I mean, I'm in the prime of my life. I'm very, very healthy. And like 16 to 26, those are like, people consider those your healthiest years. So to see what happens to someone between the age of 16 and 26 when sleep is removed from the equation. Nothing else has changed, but sleep is simply removed from the equation, has taught me experientially so much about health, fitness, and high performance that I don't think that there's anyone on the planet who has as functional of a knowledge base as I do. This is just pure humility here. I mean, I'm really not trying to be arrogant about this. I'm not like, haha, I know more than... Sleep's the most important thing. I know more about sleep and the effects of no sleep than anyone else on Earth. I know more about how to fix total insomnia than anyone else on Earth. Those are just two facts. Those are pretty inarguable. I mean, I challenge any of you to go out there and find someone who knows more about the effects of not sleeping than I do. I challenge any of you to go out there and find someone who knows more about regaining sleep than I do. You just won't find them because they've classified all of these cases as fatal insomnia and everyone dies. Why am I not dead then? Pure stubbornness. I also think that I think the diagnosis fatal insomnia is pretty unhelpful. I mean, if you just tell someone you have fatal insomnia, they're not going to try to fix it. So fatal insomnia actually hadn't been as well documented by the point where I started having these issues. It was kind of more of a rumor. So I was like, well, better make sure I don't have that. I'm going to do everything I can to regain my sleep so that I can prove to myself that I don't have fatal insomnia by regaining my sleep. Now there's something called sporadic fatal insomnia, where evidently people sporadically regain their sleep and then they lose it again, and then they also inevitably die. And the youngest case of that happening to someone was 16. So that's very tragic and that's terrible. And actually what kills you is respiratory failure due to brain damage. Yeah, your brain becomes so damaged that it can no longer keep your respiratory system functioning. I've had inklings of that. And I've rebuilt my brain function. A year ago, my brain did not work. It was hell. But now my brain works quite well. I'm very articulate. I'm very focused. I get a lot of stuff done. A little sleepy still. Because, like, holy cow, why wouldn't I be? This is just a year ago that I was going through the third episode. But it's all good. So, at least for me right now. So fatal insomnia is being documented more now. So now people are actually aware that there is... Literally, when I was 16, I go to the doctor and I told him, I haven't slept for 2 weeks. And he was like, that's not possible. You must be sleeping. You just don't realize it. And I wasn't sleeping. He was like, well, it's never been documented that people would have insomnia for 2 weeks straight. Now it has been documented, but they call it fatal insomnia. So that was kind of a pain in the butt because it really limited the amount that I could actually talk to doctors about this. Because if I tell them, like, I haven't slept for a month, they're going to be like, the odds you haven't slept for a month, the odds that you are schizophrenic and we need to lock you in a mental institution and put you on drugs. And I figured, I already had noticed there was some connection between what I was eating and when I wouldn't sleep. There was a connection. I noticed this. I was writing all this stuff down. I was just going through variables. I just started when I was 16. I was like, I was raised as a mathematician by my father. Very, very brilliant man. Raised me as a mathematician. So I was like, okay, there's a limited number of variables going on here. Let's write down everything I'm eating, everything I'm doing, everything I'm drinking, all this stuff. I mean, how many variables are there? So I just record all this stuff and I write it down. I pay attention to all this stuff and I notice patterns. And one of the reasons I only eat beef, salt, and water right now, one thing that terrifies me is the idea that they start putting soy in beef as a preservative or something. Oh, but like cheese, for instance, I'm just going to rant a little bit about this. Like cheese, like you go to the grocery store and you pick up a block of grass-fed cheese and you look at the ingredients. It says like milk, enzymes. Those enzymes are vegetable rennet, which is derived from soy, and if I eat that, I can't sleep. So yeah, they put soy in everything, even things labeled soy-free. It's like Aquabiome. I'm just going to name drop them. Aquabiome fish oil pills. soy free. They add D-alpha trisopherol acetate, which is derived from soy. UMass Amherst, all our food is soy free. And they spray all the trays in soybean oil because soybean oil isn't considered soy because I guess we live in hell. It's not hell because I can still talk about this, and hopefully there's something that'll come about as this. I keep on thinking I should sue UMass just to make sure that actually changes. Yeah, I really do think I should investigate a long-term lawsuit into UMass for that. I just want to change that. I want there to be something with the labeling laws that's different, because it is FUCKED. It is just absolutely abysmal how negligently these companies can label their food, which made it really hard for me to figure out that soy was a primary cause. But then once the mitochondrial dysfunction in my brain is really set in, then the only thing that works is beef, salt, and water for years, and fasting. Also drinking large amounts of green tea to like detox my cells. That also helps. The first time I did carnivore and lion diet, I did not do that. But now I am a little bit older and wiser, and I have realized that there are actually many benefits to green tea. If you doubt that, simply look at the population of China. They are alive. Shocking, I know. I mean, it's such a toxic cesspool of... They have, like, power plants next to their fields. I've been to China. Like, I went to China physically. I remember I asked the people in China, I was like, what should I do for health? Actually, I asked the Chinese doctors. I met Chinese doctors when I was there, and I asked them, and they were like, drink green tea as strong as possible, as much as possible. That was what they told me. And that's what they do in China. They just drink green tea like crazy, and they're somehow alive. Fascinating. One thing that causes mitochondrial dysfunction is iron accumulation in the cell, leading to excess reactive oxygen species produced by the mitochondria during energy production. The iron is retained due to toxins in the cell that your body holds on to iron in order to... Your body can either get rid of iron in a healthy way, or it can get rid of these other toxins, heavy metals, plastics, etc. So it'll hold on to iron, which we need for oxygen, hemoglobin, etc., and get rid of these other things, and then we end up with too much iron in the cell, and then that causes excess reactive oxygen species, because iron's ability to carry oxygen also makes it prone to oxidation. So just a little brief aside. But the thing is, I can actually trace effects from the cellular level to the experiential level seamlessly. Don't take my word for it. Go through, I'll link my insomnia videos down below, and I'll link the course I made on how to beat insomnia, because that is a absolute masterclass in health, fitness, and high performance. So insomnia has set me up to be the Henry Ford of health, fitness, and high performance for the coming century, because I'm the only person who's actually had the experience of having sleep removed from me entirely at a young age, while having the mathematical background and means by which to actually try out all of these theories and test these things out and see how do we restore the most important component of health, and what happens when, like, diet is perfect, exercise is perfect, water consumption is perfect, vitamin consumption is perfect, fasting is perfect, meditation is perfect. When everything is perfect except there's no sleep, what happens then? I know exactly what happens. I've documented that, and I've dealt with that for my entire life. So that gives me this very, very unique perspective on health, fitness, and high performance that will just inevitably result in all of the solutions that I come out with being widely adopted, being the most long-lasting solutions that stick around the longest. Like, we still use cars. We're going to be using everything I come out with for the next 200 years, because this stuff is all built on ground zero bedrock of mathematically based health reasoning. It's crazy. So, and it's centered around the single most important component of metabolism, which is the root of health, which is sleep. So I've been in this weird position where I've had this education. I've had this semi-involuntary education in health, fitness, and high performance, centered around the single most critical component of which is sleep. And I've built systems upon this for my whole life while documenting the science behind this. in order to support myself, and now I've made these systems widely available. I'm just going to continue to do so for an illness that people don't even formally it's just become formally recognized. Fatal insomnia has literally just become formally recognized. No one has any idea what to do. That's why they call it fatal insomnia. They're just throwing their hands up. They're saying, we have no idea what to do. Well, I do, because I am 30 years ahead of modern medical research in this particular area. And the only reason I'm only 30 years ahead is because I'm telling everyone everything I figured out. If I wasn't telling them, I'd be so far ahead that it would be disturbing, like hundreds of years ahead. Like, I don't think people would ever figure this out. I think it's very unlikely that the combination of characteristics and principles and experiences and fatal insomnia would come together in a single person like myself. I think that's just very, very, very unlikely. Because I basically had an ideal upbringing except for this particular issue. I mean, I didn't like going to public school, but I guess that's my other big gripe, is public school sucked because my teachers were morons. A lot of them. Not every single one of them, but like 5th grade math, not going to name drop you because I'm just too dang polite, but I'm looking at you. They were morons. And they also disliked me because I was better at math than them. It's a common experience, I imagine, that a lot of you would relate to. But whatever. I'm not here to toot my own horn and talk about how those who can't do teach and those who can't teach Jim. It's not what I'm here for. Though there are great teachers out there. I will say there are great teachers out there. And in some sense, I'll throw this one out there just because I'm not really pulling punches right now. Generally speaking, history teachers, I found, tend to be the most competent, because if you're really into history, being a history teacher is actually like the top of the pile. Whereas if you're an English teacher, why didn't you write a book? If you're a math teacher, why didn't you go do great mathematical work? I mean, there are some math teachers I've had that did do great mathematical work and then retired from that, and then in their 60s decided to teach math. Those don't count. If you're a great scientist, why are you teaching science? Why are you doing it? Just questions. I don't know. I didn't like going to public school. That's the other thing I have to complain about from my childhood. That's it. But so basically, like, ideal upbringing, ideal circumstances, access to the resources to test these things out and actually build systems on this, and then the persistence to actually follow through on this. Years of health coaching experience, finding people who have the same illness when it's not even formally recognized and helping them. Yeah, it's unique. My background is unique. Absolutely unique. If it isn't, by all means, go find the person who shares my background and send me his phone number, because I would love to talk to someone who can relate to what I've been through, but there ain't anyone. So it's just me here fixing metabolism at a cellular level, using an understanding that modern science is just barely, almost possibly. Modern science did provide me with the studies in order to confirm various theories about, like, reactive oxygen species and iron retention in the cell, for instance. That was very helpful. But they haven't put any of it together at all, and they won't unless, because there's still more missing pieces that I figured out that I need to go build a multi-billion-dollar company in order to actually run the studies to confirm these pieces. Like, they won't catch up. So I'll just end up being the Henry Ford of health, fitness, and high performance, and it's fine. I mean, they're doing great work in their area. And that's awesome, and that's going to help me too. And like Henry Ford, I'm going to help them help everyone else, because it's not about being better than people. It's not like, I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you, I'm Henry Ford and you're not, you suck. It's like, I'm Henry Ford and you're Carnegie. I use your steel to make my cars. Like, or you're Vanderbilt. Like, I use your railroads to transport goods for me so I can, like, make better things. It's like these people are doing great work in their own respect. It's just that there's this area that for whatever reason hasn't been acknowledged, and I was just thrown face first into it. And it happens to be the most critical area to health: sleep. And I happen to have had all of my health except for sleep. Sleep was simply surgically removed. It's like it's the closest you can get to a pure scientific study on what happens when you remove sleep from a healthy organism as you could possibly imagine. But it happened to someone who happens to have a brilliant mind, who happens to have been trained as a mathematician, who happens to be insanely stubborn and like a born fighter. Like, I fight. I wrestled in high school. I was one of the best wrestlers in New England. I do jiu-jitsu currently. Like, fighting for me is just in my blood. Like, I am a fighter. And all these things come together within a perfect ecosystem. I mean, I could even talk about like having younger siblings who didn't have these issues, so I could compare what I'm doing to what they're doing. Like, the whole thing was basically set up as a perfect scientific study on what happens when you remove sleep from a healthy organism, and then I use that to teach myself about every single area of the human body adjacent to sleep, and how to use those to access sleep, and how to use those to heal sleep, and how sleep affects those when sleep deteriorates, what deteriorates around it, and what can be done about that at every step of the way. And that's unique. And that's what I'm building my company based on. That's what Weak to Warrior is based on. It's based on this. And I don't think I'll have any competitors. I don't have any competitors, because to compete with me, you would need to be solving the same problem as me. But to solve this problem, you'd need to understand it. To understand it, you'd need to have had fatal insomnia and survive, which no one has, except for me, apparently, which is why they call it fatal insomnia. I think there are other people who have fatal insomnia in the early stages, or maybe it never, because I've documented insomnia a lot. Insomnia isn't just insomnia or fatal insomnia. It's a whole spectrum. I've documented this. And you progress. It's a degenerative disease. I just believe that most people either kill themselves, overdose on drugs, or simply their death is attributed to other causes, or this condition is so new in its onset in mass in the population that it simply was not it was ignored. Probably ignored. Probably the people suffering from it thought they were insane. I don't know. I mean, that's going to be a whole study I'll have to do myself, is why hasn't this cropped up before? Why hasn't anyone why has fatal insomnia only been documented formally as of, I think, 2018? That's something to ponder. That's something I'm going to ponder. That's something I'm going to publish. I don't know. But what I do know is that my experience has given me an absolutely unique perspective that is incredibly powerful. I've used this perspective to help hundreds of people personally and thousands of people through my videos. And they leave comments that are like, oh my God, thank you. This is completely unique. I've never seen anything like this. This has changed my life. You've saved my life. Thank God you put this information out there. I'm going to continue to do that. And all humility, I think that this is going to result in me being the Henry Ford of health, fitness, and high performance. Or maybe I'll be the Nietzsche of health, fitness, and high performance. I'll just make a bunch of money selling supplements and selling whatever. And then probably translate that to housing, because housing is where you make the real money. I mean, if I'm not going to be the Henry Ford of health, fitness, and high performance, I probably wouldn't make a ton of money selling supplements. I'd probably make the money in housing. But then I'll just write all this stuff down in books, and then I'll be remembered as the Nietzsche of health, fitness, and high performance, because Nietzsche was someone who was barely acknowledged in his own lifetime and is now just beginning to be acknowledged as the absolute groundbreaking genius that he was. Is part of this maybe an insomniac's desire for his suffering to mean something? Yes, but it's based in the fact that I've health coached hundreds of people and helped them personally. I have helped thousands of people through my videos, and they left comments below, and I've done over 20,000 hours worth of research into all this scientific stuff, and I've talked to numerous PhDs and MDs about this, and they're basically they're below my level in this particular area, but I can converse with them fluidly. So I know that I know all of this stuff. It's not pure delusion. This is quite grounded, and that's why I'm putting this out there. I mean, it seems kind of crazy to say, be like, wow, this guy's going to be the Henry Ford of health, fitness, and high performance. It's like, yes. Yes, I am. I'm aware of that. It's like the founding fathers of the United States. They knew what they were doing while they were doing it, and I think that I do too. I feel a little odd about being like, I'm going to make tons of money with supplements, because it's not the goal. The goal was honestly to just help my own health issues. But then I figure I might as well make them available to everyone else. And I'm going to expand into sunscreen, like again, my own sunscreen. I'm expanding into every area because I think that I just love making products. I've realized that too after making the supplements. I realized I just love making products, like really high-end products. But I want to expand into retreats for people, like health retreats. I want to expand into clinics potentially. I want to expand into books. I mean, I'm already writing books. I just got to publish them. I want to expand into food supply, like producing meat for people, because meat's been so helpful to me. Producing meat, producing fruit, producing high quality food for people. I want to use those byproducts of the food that I grow to make the capsules that encapsulate my supplements. I want to, really what I want to do is I want to design the perfect system for making sure that I never get fatal insomnia again, and then make that broadly available to everyone else. And what that's going to do is that's going to result in a population that has optimized their mitochondrial health, because that's the only way I've ever figured out to really fix this sleep issue, is optimizing mitochondria. There's other tips and tricks, but it's really mitochondrial optimization. So, am I the best person in the world at optimizing mitochondria or at understanding how people can do that easily from their home? I think so. I'd love to find someone else because I'd love to collaborate with them, because I think that together someone else and I could do even greater work, but I just don't think there is anyone. Though maybe there's people in adjacent areas that are doing excellent work themselves, and they'll be the Vanderbilts and Carnegies, and I'll be the Henry Ford, or hopefully I just won't be the Nietzsche, because if I'm the Nietzsche, then I think that we may end up with a world where everything is soy and it's all labeled soy free, and everyone's dying because they're all like, but I'm eating a soy free, allergen free diet. And it's not, because people are deceitful and the system is broken. It's only like 15% broken, though. I think it's mostly functional. Kind of tooting my own horn a lot. So I'll just wrap it up here. But leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think.